Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So thank you everyone for coming today to our last Vernon Community Network meeting for 2024. I'd like to thank those that have not been here before and those that have been here before. I'd like to thank you for attending and thank you for your support throughout 2024. We had a nice productive year and hopefully 2025 it's gonna be even better for all of us. In the nonprofit world, in the school world, in the social service world, I hope we all thrive for 2025.
So I'll give you a little background. I was invited to this meeting a few months ago. I had a Zoom meeting last night with some of the board members of the BCN when I was notified that I'd be the guest speaker today. This is my first meeting here. I know it's the last meeting of your guys' year. And I haven't been around to these things, but it kind of makes me reminiscent about a time years ago when we had a community policing officer in this town. And there was meetings, I think once a month or bi-monthly, and that CPO and some of the members of the command staff would come down and kind of talk to the community, address kind of things, brainstorm about things we can do in the community to kind of make some connections, partnerships, or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's a good step in the right direction of inviting me and kind of getting us involved a little bit. I apologize, I didn't bring my business card here, but I will, spread that out amongst you guys. A lot of the people here already know me, know my cell phone number, know my email, so you could always communicate with me. But I think it's in the right direction of getting more partnerships with the community. When I first started, we would do charity hockey games against Rockville High School. We would also participate in the basketball tournament here. There was a softball tournament. So there was things that we did, and we have been going through a lot of transition recently at the Vernon Police Department, not only with the new chief, but a lot of the guys that were mentoring me had recently retired. Now I'm 18 years into the police department. I think it's a great time, a great opportunity now for me to kind of mentor younger officers so there's not this gap when I retire. So I think this tradition or process or partnership can kind of continue. And we're open to any and all ideas to work with you guys and to kind of get out there, whether it's a pop-up party at the park, whether you guys have a connection with an apartment complex and we do a picnic there, or we do more picnics at Henry Park. We do kickball games. I get into the schools and have partnership, and I don't want to use the word mentor because I don't really spend a lot of times in the school, but I like developing the partnerships with the young kids and just have a presence around so we can kind of help each other out. They know me, I know them, and we can kind of continue in a positive path. Is there any questions or feedback you guys have for me or any ideas? If you don't want to speak out in public, you don't have to.
This will be your chance. Come on, we'll be your sounding board.
You could get me after. We can kind of brainstorm on some ideas. I still do work for some people. I do have to set that expectation, so I do have to pass the ideas up to the chain of command. But I think if we have an understanding, we can kind of come to a conclusion and kind of work together for the community, because Vernon is where we work and we kind of serve the people and the kids, and everyone's working together. We are definitely one big community. When I do go to the school, they're always looking for after-school programs, and it generally turns to be involved or the ideas about sports. They would like more sports programs, whether that's kids just getting together and play pickleball or basketball or soccer, but some of these kids and the parents, they're looking for an outlet for their kids to do something. Whether, I don't know if sports is the right thing. I don't know if sports can really be attained, but maybe something with the Parks and Recs department or some sort of activity where kids have an outlet to do things after school, where there's still a sense of community and they could be together.
And with a minimal fee to do it.
Yeah,
So,
right?
yeah.
Well, and this is where Phyllis, if she were here, would mention this is the need for the community center, the teen center, where it's not necessarily sports, because there are some sports programs at least affiliated with the schools, but what do we do for the non-athletes as well?
So when I first started and I was on patrol, now I'm far removed from patrol. and it's not necessarily a bad thing because I'm in kind of a different spot right now, but when I was first starting, and I remember we had the CPO, we had the office, we had the districts here in Rockville. I remember there was always an officer going to the teen center. And I actually haven't heard that word teen center in a long time.
We don't have one.
Well, there you go. So,
And that's what I'm saying. Phyllis Winkler has been, and some of the other members in the community have been talking about bringing back a teen center and whether or not there's a need for it. Whether or not there's a need for it. But
so whenever you bring, I know this in my experience, and I know you guys can probably attest to this too, whenever you have young adults or kids together, you know, you're gonna have, there's a lot of gray area, you know, everyone's having fun, they're all playing, but then of course there's arguments and there's a little bit of riffraff going on. But from what I remember the experience, there's a lot more good from the teen center. You know, we did get called there sometimes, but I do remember officers just going off, signing off out there and playing basketball and making connections and kind of doing stuff, so. I don't know anything about the process about that, or how to get that thing started, or how to spearhead it. But it probably would not be a bad idea to bring that back.
Yeah.
Or have the conversation with somebody to kind of suggest that, hey, this was a
Yeah,
good
you're
thing.
smiling, go ahead.
No, I mean, I work for youth services. I think the teen center would be great. It's just a matter of finding the funding for it.
The funding is there if they want to make the time and the funds available. And that's been a problem with the administration. I'll be very blunt about it.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
And then it's always should it be in Vernon or should it be in Rockville? There's always.
Do the Vernon police, do you guys connect with the other towns as far as recreational things, or just in partnership, or just?
We do not. So Ellington's the state police,
Oh, okay.
and they're part of the greater umbrella, so we don't really partnership with them at all. Manchester and South Windsor, they're kind of their own different entities, so we don't really partnership unless it's like a fundraising type thing. But few and far between, we don't really, you know, it's all your own entity, your own
Your
department.
satellite.
Yeah. We don't really partner with them quite often.
Yeah, so I think Manchester, don't they have the PAL program? We did have a PAL program.
I don't know, to be honest with you, but when I think of the PAL program, the only department that comes to mind is New Britain. But I know New Britain is far bigger than us, and I don't even know if they still have that. But I do know that when I was doing some training with them years ago, the training was held at their PAL buildings. So I know they have the buildings there, but whether they still have the program, I don't know.
You know, we own a building right across the street that is vacant. We haven't used that building in years. They've done renovations to it.
It's not
But,
completed.
you know, here is an open building that we could use as a teen center. And I know we had the police substation, which to me was a very important entity right in Rockville, where kids could go in there, people can go in there, and not be afraid of the police, which I think is one of the biggest problems that we have. And we've got to be able to break down those barriers to make it more open, more friendly, more accepting. And I think that would be getting us off our asses and doing something.
So I do know that we are working as an agency to get full staffing, and we're not quite there yet, but we're pretty close. Of course, there's some things that have to fall into place. And if, you know, I can't speak for the chief, but I do believe that if we're at full staffing, we can start having conversations and thinking about having more of these specialty assignments like the community policing officer. I don't know where that ranks on the list of things of needs, but I know it's a conversation we can have. And if we can have some back and forth conversation about that, maybe, you know, I could discuss that with them, and we can kind of figure out where we're gonna go from there.
can I ask, so like we know we have the substation, and I'm aware we have an officer at the high school. Are there other regular, I mean, I know like VCN has hosted the event in the park. Are there other regular interactive roles where the police are in the community, interacting with the community in ways similar to that? Do you understand what I mean? Like on a regular basis. I mean, and I'm familiar, you know what, I walk on the trails. I see the officers out on their bikes, and I see the officers on regular interaction, but how much of your time, I guess maybe this is a better way to put it, how much of the force resources now are you able to spend on community building rather than reactivity to situations going on?
Well, that is a department staffing issue.
Right, I understand.
However, I can tell you that it doesn't happen every month, but we do have events that we participate in with the town. So I know the Winterfest is coming up soon. So I could name off a few events right now that we do interact with the community. So Winterfest is coming up soon. There's National Night Out. There's July in the Sky fireworks. There's the Chicken Run. There's the Mother's Day Dash, the Memorial Day Parade. And all those things that we do have the events that we can come together as a community. And they're all over the place. Memorial Day Parade and the Winterfest is held in downtown Rockville. National Night Out, some of the Circle of Mom picnics that we have are at Henry Park. Mother's Day Dash is at Henry Park. The Chicken Run is at Strong Farm. So it's kind of spread out. We do also do the Arctic Splash or the Polar Plunge. So there are events. It doesn't happen, every month, but it is spread out, and it seems like every 6 weeks or so there's something going on. In addition to that, businesses have reached out to us, and we do try to have an officer present. Like, for example, ShopRite did a Family Fun Day recently. We did that. We did the food share grocery packing. We did that at ShopRite as well. So there is events spread out.
And I'm familiar with your fundraiser at Square Peg.
Yes, we do that as well. See,
Yeah.
forgot about that one, so thank you. So an important one.
Right. And we have the holiday party at the TKB.
Yes, which I would like to talk a little bit more about that after if we can.
Okay, yeah, yep.
So there are things, and we do get out there. We try to dedicate 1 or 2 officers to those things. Touch a Truck events. Public Works had a event recently that we were there. So yes, we are out there, and it is spread out through the town. Coffee with the Cop is another one. So
I always forget about those.
so there are out there,
Yeah.
and it is spread out.
Soup Fest is tonight at St. Bernard's Church.
They're quiet.
My son has walked there.
Oh, I did have,
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So how can the community help you as the police? What can we do to help facilitate some of these things?
Well, I would also go back to the very most common thing that people say is see something, say something. Okay, so I know, yes, the community will call the police and it is a reactive call for service. But that connection that person has with the police officer and the connection they can make, that can last longer than just that few minute interaction they have regarding that case.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's got to be a little bit of back and forth conversation that they can learn to know each other more than a business connection, more at a personal level. You don't have to know everything about each other, but there can be a connection that people make because cops are in this community all the time. So I think that's a big part.
Do you have any ideas on how that can happen?
Well, I can't speak for every citizen out there on how they can feel a certain way to us when something's going on in their community.
Yeah.
But I know that we hold our officers to a high standard to treat everybody with respect. So I think if everybody can just understand that, we can kind of work together better. And maybe if we do have some events, a National Night Out or something, maybe that could be some sort of theme too. Maybe we can kind of put that out there just so there's an understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know last night on our executive meeting, we were talking about that, and I don't know how many of you remember the Rockville Community Alliance group, per se, where under our bylaws, we have the Neighborhood Advocate Program. And during that course of that time, we would just go to maybe Talcott Park, the top of Village Street, just an empty lot, and we would set up as the neighborhood advocates, and we'd give out either pizza, but we'd have a dental truck come and just be there. And it wouldn't be something where we'd be like, hey, you gotta come over here. If they came and got information, they did. It wasn't something that we forced down. So it was more kind of just little pop-up events that were unexpected, and they're like, oh, what are they doing here? So it wasn't something like usually advertise it, this is where we're gonna be. So you kind of just people walking by and just hoping someone would come on. So we would do just like little pop-up events within like the larger events that.
So I do like that idea, and if my memory serves me correctly, I think we brought that idea, you and Tom brought that idea to me when we were talking about one of our last National Night Out meetings.
Yeah.
I think it was the post event, he brought that up, and I actually brought that up to the chief at one of our command staff meetings, and I think that idea was pretty receptive too, but I think we need a liaison, and I think for the time being, for the moment, I could work with you guys as a partnership, and if there's ideas that needs to go up and down the chain of command, please use me, and we will discuss that. And I actually am a big fan of that idea, and that's the second thing that we can do to make this, like have these pop-up events.
Yeah.
I don't know how many officers at a time we can have for these events, but if there's 1, 2.
Right, and that's kind of what we would,
A small number is important.
right, because that's kind of what we would get.
Right.
So we did the safety helmet, bike helmet things down at West Main Park, like years back. And I think we probably had like 2 officers there, and then it was just community, and the kids just playing the swings, and we, they did the safety demonstrate with the helmets and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was not overwhelming with the police, but just the presence of the police being there.
I know years ago, there was a prison, it was like a series of classes, basically, for people in the community to get to know what the police did, and like how things worked. And it was held at the police
The
station?
Citizens Police Academy.
Yes.
Yes, so that is something that is in discussion as well. It has gone away for a little bit, but those are ideas that we are discussing and we have brought up that we want to bring back to the community. I think it was great because I think every week there was a different theme.
Yes.
So for example, one week it was the SWAT team. One week it was, it was someone talking about like undercover stuff. Then it was talking about traffic stops, and it was the canine officer. Tour the PD. So I think that is something that could be kind of brought back
I
as
agree,
well.
I participated in that, and I really enjoyed it, and the people in the room seemed to really get a lot out of it.
So as I said, we are doing some transition at the PD. We are having new promotions. We are going through this whole new thing. So it may take a little bit to kind of get this thing off the ground, but we're trying to trend in the right direction to kind of do that. And if it's anything what the past has shown, I know that we were big in the community. The chief has been out there to coffee with the cops and all these events. So the community is a big part of police work. So I think these are some things that we can definitely have conversations about.
Yeah, because I know, didn't he meet with the churches, the chief?
I believe he
think
did.
so.
I
Yeah,
believe he
the
did.
thing with meeting the churches in the community.
Well, what if the police department worked with Community Bush Channel to make a series of like safety videos? Or we could have a show, every month, it's doing a different seasonal safety thing or anything.
That's definitely an idea. Please.
I'm not far, I'm in Bolton, I'm not far. I'm not in Vernon, but I'm in Bolton.
No, that's definitely an idea. And after this, with all these ideas, I will just email Tom and Terry, and I'll just kind of jot down of the ideas that we had. If I forget any, they could add to that, and then I could kind of bring it up and kind of see it, and just kind of have a discussion with the police chief and see this is what we discussed and how we can brainstorm how things can be better in the community, and we'll kind of see what we can do. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a fantastic
I
idea.
Yeah.
have a kind of suggestion, which, you guys tell me what you're open to, but I think part of it is the community needs to know our officers. Like, so even if it was a little thing like, this is Officer so-and-so,
I can
these are my
travel.
interests, like just
I can go to the police
personalize you guys a
department.
little bit for the community, but it would also be up to what you're comfortable with.
So
Right.
there is a trend right now, and we started that trend, and we had a get to know our dispatchers week. I don't know if you guys follow that on Facebook. And there is a trend right now where there are officers going on Facebook for their respective police departments saying, "I am officer so-and-so, I was a military veteran, or I'm still aspiring to be a veterinarian, and this is what I do, I love animals." So that's not far off the beaten path too, if you want to get officers to know this. But that trend seems to be more of a social media type thing.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, like you said, it's the building the community and people understanding that you're not just somebody in uniform, you are a person here in the community as well. I think it's important for the community to see that.
And just to piggyback off that, I think that I think we've been doing a pretty good job with our recent social media posts. It kind of highlights all the things that we have been doing in the community, and I'm going to repeat myself saying some things that we did, like the food share bagging, the touch a truck events. So we are out there. We do get a lot of positive comments, but I am not offended. But unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, the person who gets the most of the positive comments is Franco.
But unfortunately, you're also subject to the algorithms. So like a lot of us don't always get the posts, and that's where we miss out.
So
But I know, it's always how do you reach the people is the big issue.
if you follow the Vernon Police Department on Facebook, every time you get a post, you don't get those?
No, not always.
Really? I was not aware of that.
The algorithms, like,
Okay, I was not aware of that.
yeah, social media, you get whatever they feel like feeding you today.
Okay.
Unless you specifically set the page to your favorite.
It has to be a favorite, but like you can't, like
But if you
300
have a ton of
favorites.
favorites, then they'll say you can't have.
I want to
think
be sure
you're
I
only
get
allowed,
all
like,
of these,
10 or something,
like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the
I also
algorithms are really.
recently discovered yesterday that the Vernon Police Department also has an Instagram because we're already following, there's an Instagram specifically for the SRO at the high school and one for the canines, but that the police department itself also has an Instagram now too.
I was definitely gonna say TikTok and Instagram are where you tend to get more, of those social views.
Yeah,
Facebook is good, but it's just,
Yeah, Instagram.
it's like a daily, sometimes several times a day, you gotta post in order for that algorithm.
Instagram now
to-
too.
Yeah, Instagram too, you gotta be like a daily poster, but.
So I'm a little far removed from all that social media stuff.
Thank you.
But if there's ideas,
Like what?
if there's ideas, please, I value all sorts of ideas and brainstorming, and I can definitely make notes and kind of.
And like, who runs your page? Which you probably don't know.
So I don't run the page, but I think Sergeant Andrew Hannaford is one of the power users for them. I don't know if that's the correct term, power user, but he's the one who runs that page quite often.
Does the VCN have social media?
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's not,
Yes, those that.
it's not super active.
And the only reason I was asking is because maybe that's something that we should start doing regularly, is sharing the police stuff and the
Right.
other community
Oh, just
pages.
sharing community stuff.
Yeah.
But sharing the community stuff,
Yes.
and I mean, we had
Share
parents and
our own
community
events.
together hasn't really been.
Right. So that was one of the things I wanted to do for 2025. So I post like with Rockville High School, like volunteer their kids for their volunteer hours. So I was just saying at our executive meeting, that's one of the things I might do is like post like if someone wants to be like an office manager at the Nook, and then that's part of what they do with our social media is take care of social media, our bills, and stuff. But as their service hours. So, and I have a new artist for the window. So if you see it, it's Cora from Rockville High. It's
Yeah, and if you haven't checked out the windows, go
Yeah,
drive by
and
it.
it's Snoopy on the window, so she's gonna
116
do
Grove
it.
and half Grove Street.
Whenever, I don't know until she graduates or until she feels like she doesn't wanna paint the windows anymore. Yeah, so she's from Talent and she takes one of the voting programs at the high school. So that's kind of cool. And we were service hours.
I have another question. So you were talking about social media and Facebook. I know most kids aren't on Facebook. They're more on like TikTok and other things. Is that something you considered kind of branching out to?
Not sure about TikTok, but probably with the younger generation of officers that are getting hired, they're much more technologically advanced with that
Yeah.
TikTok stuff than I am. Possibly, I'm not sure if other agencies are on it, they could be, but I know Instagram is kind of like, Instagram is probably kind of getting phased out with the younger
Yeah.
kids, so probably TikTok is the next thing. Maybe, but I don't really know, I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I don't.
I can just jump in really quick because Vernon Rocks does a ton of social media and we really look at it from an analysis standpoint of does this platform give us access to users in the community that we want to reach?
Right.
And there was a very small pocket in 2020, right before COVID hit, that our youth at the time really wanted TikTok. And so we tried to get it up and running and the most difficult thing about TikTok is you can't necessarily target users the same way you can on the other platforms. So if we're posting on Instagram, even if it's not people that follow us anymore, because now Instagram will shoot out feeds that you might just be interested in regardless of if you're following or not, we're so much more likely to get people that are in the community than on TikTok.
Good.
So if you're posting something that's on TikTok, you might be reaching people in Idaho, which is great for them, but our residents aren't gonna be receiving that information. And so when you look at it from like a really strategic point and honestly a time management perspective, it's really difficult to make sure that you're hitting such a niche population with that app, even though it's so popular.
Good to know. I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah,
Shed some light.
TikTok I feel like is very short form. When people are scrolling on TikTok, they're gonna look at your video for like 3 seconds, and if it captures them, they'll stay and watch. If not, they're just gonna keep scrolling. That's why I feel like Instagram is kind of like that middle ground, where you kind of get people from every age range. I know like my parents are on Instagram, I'm on Instagram, and then people younger than me are still on Instagram. And then like I'm not on Facebook. It's it's older. Yeah, unfortunately. It's the way to say it. It's older. But Instagram.
See space here.
At least we're not on MySpace.
We went from
He doesn't know what that is.
Before.
No, I wasn't sure if people still used Instagram. It's
Yeah, no, it definitely still gets used.
I had the same 29 friends for like 10 years.
So Instagram is still
Yeah, I feel like that's probably from a
most new.
police department standpoint, it's probably the easiest, most functional way to get to people nowadays.
Personally, I like the idea of Instagram better anyway. So it's
Their platform
good.
is shifting though, it's.
Isn't that why I feel?
And that definitely made me feel, so thank you, Tyler. Get up.
You have to walk back to the stage now.
Yes.
I'll give you a.
He's been trying to.